Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Champaign County Board of Committee of the Whole for Finance, Policy, Personnel and Appointments, Justice, and Social Services. It's Tuesday, May 15th, 2018. The time is 6:35. Roll call, please.
Petrie.
Present.
Rector. Here. Rosales.
Here.
Storr.
Here.
Summers. Here. Tinsley.
Present.
Anderson. Clemens. Here. Clifford. Here. Coert. Cruz. Esri.
Here.
Furtado. Here. Goss.
Here.
Harper.
Here.
King. Marsh.
Here.
McGuire. Mitchell. Patterson.
Here.
Weibel.
Present. We have a quorum. Seek approval of the agenda. Any addenda? Moved by Rosales. Second by Esri. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Seek approval of the minutes of April 10th, 2018. Moved by Petrie, second by Goss. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, it's time for public participation. I remind you, you have 5 minutes each. We are limited to a total of an hour. So if you go under 5 minutes, you're probably giving somebody else a chance to talk because we have more than 12. First up is Brent Fry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I am Brent Fry, and I'm an employee of Champaign County. I'm also a citizen of Champaign County. I'm here to address the concern of selling the Champaign County nursing home, not only for me, but also as a spokesperson for those sitting behind me and other hundreds of employees who were not able to attend this meeting tonight. The situation with the Champaign County nursing home has been an ongoing issue as long as I have been employed with Champaign County. So that's 12 plus years, maybe 13 or so. I'm not for sure, quite the accurate number on that. This home has been a burden on everyone's shoulders for a very long time. During this time, many county board members have come and gone, and at some point, some of you will as well. There's two constants in this situations are the employees that provide a valuable, highly professional services to hundreds of customers each and every day, and the battle to keep an entity that is not mandated but it is rather provided. Years ago, department heads made drastic cuts to their budgets to reduce spending, and employees' cuts were mandated due to the nursing home. The vast majority of employees were not given raises for 3 years. The cost of living during this time significantly rose. However, our income did not, which forced many employees to find other jobs, find second or third jobs, just to put food on their families' tables and to keep a roof over their heads. I myself have to leave here shortly after speaking to go work a second job for my family. The cuts then did not solve the county's problem, and they will not solve the current one. Employees' cuts to solve this problem is not and never will be acceptable. Each and every employee of Champaign County should be your top priority, not the salvation of the nursing home. We are one of the most efficient run counties due to the knowledgeable employees that makes this county what it is, from top to the bottom. From the top to the bottom. That's everyone. The nursing home will continue to be a loss no matter what you do. History has not and will not lie here. The ideas of some of you that you want to implement now are no different than they were before. Yes, your constituents placed you on this board to do the work they feel is necessary for their districts, and I am sure that each and every one of you strive to be successful for them. However, the nursing home is not run solely by one district or the other, but by all districts that each of you represent. I find the words that some members have stated, "It is not what my constituents want." I find this to be a rather patronizing response so that you can ensure that you'll be elected next time and have no thought to what the future of what the mandated necessary entities of the county is given. This is a poor excuse for you to justify your unwillingness to sell. When the problem affects your district, then it is your duty to do something about it. The title Champaign County Nursing Home is not singular. There's no District 5, 2, 1, whatever. It's Champaign County as a whole. As you can tell, you will not see your district's names in that title. Like I just said, Champaign County Nursing Home. As a whole, I hope that each one of you do what is best for the county. Each of you need to do what is best for the county and stop thinking about the next election. Do what's right for everyone involved, not just yourselves. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, please, I beg you, on behalf of the employees of this county, this great county that we live in, do not take this lightly. Thank you for your time.
Next up is Ms. Jennifer Putman.
Hi, folks. I'm honored to be
Speak into the microphone, please.
honored to be among the individuals who will find a picture of her or himself on those photos over there from several decades service on the county board. And with me in some of those photographs is Mr. Jerry Like. And I'm here to say how pleased I was when I opened the agenda and saw that Jerry Like was is an applicant for reappointment to the Sanitary District Board. I think that this is really a Republican's decision to name a Republican and let the Democrats choose the Democrats who they wish to serve on the Board of Trustees of the Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District. But I'm really pleased that Jerry will have the opportunity to continue serving. He's engaged, he's congenial, he knows the subject matter, he has long history in local government. When President Diana Lennox resigned, he moved smoothly into the positions of leadership as president of the Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District. There's one thing I can't talk to Jerry about, though, and that's why I want you to help me. Because we are a three-person entity, I can't talk with the other trustees about business without violating the Open Meetings Act. And although, as you will read in Jerry's application, almost all of the decisions that the board makes are unanimous, there's one issue on which we have not been unanimous, and that is, what is fair compensation for a trustee on the Sanitary District Board? We currently pay ourselves, because it's only the three of us, it's only the three trustees who make the decision, the maximum allowed by state law. And it is allowed by state law, but that's $6,000 to attend once in a while, 2 meetings a month, conduct a little bit of business outside of those regular monthly meetings at the district office. And it's so far out of alignment with what other citizens who serve on boards and trustees appointed by this body. $6,000 a year is out of line with the amount that you yourselves are paid. And I know what it's like to serve on the county board and to have citizens contact you, you to contact citizens, emails, phone calls, caucuses, staying up all night because the decisions are so onerous, you can't let yourself let go of it. The Sanitary District Service is not onerous like that. It's a tightly organized little ship, And I believe that the $6,000 compensation is out of line. When I proposed reducing it to $3,000 a year for the president and about $2,400 for the other trustees, my motion died for lack of a second. But I hope that in the week or so that remains before you actually vote on reappointing president and trustee like, that you might have an opportunity to talk to him to think about paying ourselves somewhat less. Jerry does stress in his appointment request that he wants accessibility to his constituents, and I'm all for that. But if you look at the sanitary district website, you'll see that not the trustees' own email addresses, not all of the trustees' own phone numbers are used. We use a filter. You go through the sanitary district to email or to phone a trustee. I'm not saying that the district doesn't get in touch with us, but the accessibility is made easy by the fact that our staff handle our emails and phone calls for us. The job is not that demanding. The decisions are almost all made unanimously, and I think that we could set a good example for the citizens who serve without compensation at all or for minimal compensation by urging President Like to second a motion so that we could reduce the compensation and be an example for other sanitary districts in the state of Illinois. Thanks very much.
Next up is Steph Coram, or I think with a C, is that correct?
Yes, you are. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephanie Corm. I go by Steph most of the time at the courthouse, and I work in the public defender's office. I want to thank Brent for saying those words about the employees at the county courthouse and what we do and what people have financially sacrificed. I appreciate that. But what I want to talk to you tonight about is the heart of the courthouse and the heart of the public defender's office. There are 9 public defenders seated behind me, or people who are employed by the public defender's office. We came tonight because we believe that selling the county nursing home is vital to the survival of our office and many other offices at the courthouse. In case you don't know what the Champaign County Public Defender's Office does, we have a website, Champaign County does, and you can go to our website and we have a public defender page. We'll tell you statistics like how many cases are open to each of us, how many cases are closed to each of us, but that's only numbers. Those are numbers that are generated. It doesn't tell you what we really do for the people of this county. So for example, it's come to our attention that if the county board does not sell the nursing home, that a place called the Youth Assessment Center will close. The Youth Assessment Center currently is serving youth in this county who can be deferred instead of being charged in the court system. If the Youth Assessment Center closes, I venture a guess that we will have maybe 50 to 75 more youth a year coming through the court system. 50 to 75 youth who will need an attorney. And if the county board does not sell the nursing home, then that means that our office will lose probably at least 1, if not 2 attorneys. So not only will you have this influx of 50 to 75 youth who could be deferred, who could learn how to make the right decisions before they even enter the juvenile justice system, but you're also going to be losing at least 1 or 2 attorneys who will be serving that youth. So our time will be limited in our ability to serve them. Additionally, if we lose an attorney in our office, if you look, please look at those statistics, because you will see that what will happen at the jail is that you will not see people moving as quickly out of the jail because we won't be able to talk to them, because our office will not be able to serve those people and give them the vital service of indigent representation that our office does every day. Ladies and gentlemen, all we're asking for is what the county has already voted for. I'm a member of this community, Champaign. We were looking up people's addresses before we even started. Ms. Petrie, Mr. McGuire, Mr. Clemens, and Mr. Harper, you are all representatives of us back here. You represent our interests. And it's not for personal gain. It's not because I want more money. It's not because I want for my friends to keep their jobs. It's because I know what will happen to the unspoken voices in this community. Those unspoken voices who don't always get the representation that they vitally deserve. And if you cut those services, then they really won't get it. I don't want Champaign County to turn into the story that you see on 60 Minutes from New Orleans of the public defender's office having to sue their county, having to sue their state. Please don't let that happen. And so I'm just asking you to do the thing that the voters have already asked you to do. And please, please consider what's best for the county as a whole. Thank you.
Lisa Benson.
It's on? It is. Good evening. I'm Lisa Benson. I'm the Community Services Director at the Regional Planning Commission. We understand that the County Board has difficult decisions to make in the upcoming week regarding the 2019 budget. We've provided a packet of information that documents the outcomes and the impact of the county's investment in the Youth Assessment Center. I would like to share a couple of the highlights from the information packet. On an annual basis since 2014, the Youth Assessment Center has received over 500 referrals annually, completed over 300 individual intakes annually, supported over 300 youth and families to address behavioral issues, including acts of delinquency. Momentum has particularly increased in the impact of the Youth Assessment Center prior to the youth contact with law enforcement. During the month of April, 30% of the referrals were school, self, and family referrals. Previously, school, self, and family referrals have only accounted for at most 8% of the referrals. So we're increasing our impact in preventative areas. The Youth Assessment Center is particularly increasing the reach in the Latino population. 2 of the 5 staff are Spanish-speaking and participated this afternoon in the Ivanhoe Estates Resource Fair. Staff are supporting youth in the schools prior to contact with school resource officers. Recently, a case manager was at the local high school to make contact with a student that they were currently working with. While at the school, she encountered a student who was having struggles. She offered immediate, brief support and encouraged the student to contact her about her situation. The case manager provided her business card, and within 1 hour of that contact, the student reached out via email. Annually, from 2015 through 2017, at least 90% of the youth served by the Youth Assessment Center did not have a juvenile court adjudication following their Youth Assessment Center intervention. The outcomes of the Youth Assessment Center are based on a great deal of collaboration and multiple partnerships. Most recently, the new location for operations was secured through a private donation. We invite each county board member to stop by our new location and observe our operations firsthand. The Youth Assessment Center offers an opportunity to achieve increased balance in our community through use of balanced and restorative justice practices, connecting youth with the tools they need to be resilient, resourceful, responsible, and restored to a positive community involvement and engagement. Please review the information provided in the packet regarding our impact on the youth that we are serving at the Youth Assessment Center, and take it into consideration as you evaluate the impact of the decisions before you. I urge you to think comprehensively and include the needs of the youth, their families, and our community at large as you make the important decision that will impact the residents of Champaign County. Thank you.
Mr. Kip Pope.
Thank you. Chairman Weibel, board members, review committee members, and staff. I'm Kip Pope. I was born in Urbana. I'm a former practicing attorney and have owned several businesses and properties in Champaign County over several decades. I hope you got a chance to read my May 12th letter. Although directed to the board, it was really intended more for those who may be undecided or who are opposed to the sale of the nursing home. As you may have noticed at the bottom of my letter, I quoted Helen Keller, who said, "Often we look so long at the closed door that we do not see the one that has been opened for us." I think a door has been opened for us, in that a unique and exciting opportunity has presented itself. I believe this mainly for two reasons. First, as I stated in my letter, compared to the county, quote, the offerors have at their disposal almost unimaginably greater resources, staff, expertise, experience, vision, innovative ideas, optimism, and financial wherewithal with which to make the nursing home a better institution going into the future, unquote. As a part of that perspective, I couldn't help but notice that even the opponents of the sale who went on the field trip and visited 3 nursing homes operated under the auspices of the offerors praised those facilities at the meeting of the review committee held following the tours. Most of their reactions were positive. For example, one opponent of the sale missed visiting the first facility, but said that she was pleasantly surprised at the others and that they were lovely. Another said that she saw nothing that caused concern about health or care of patients and that she was impressed by the diversity of management. The second reason I see a sale as a huge opportunity is that it would allow the nursing home to get out from under the dark storm cloud that has enveloped it for years. The nursing home is operating in an atmosphere of contentiousness, debilitating uncertainty, and fiscal shortages that have plagued it for years. Do any of you really think the tumult will cease if we keep the nursing home? I certainly don't. Like it or not, the reality is that such a stultifying atmosphere is simply not an atmosphere conducive to healthy operations, to optimism, to innovation, or to anything other than negative energy. It's just not fair to the nursing home, to its staff, to its patients, to its vendors, and to the other county departments to force the nursing home to continue to operate under these paralyzing conditions. It needs to be set free from this toxic environment so that it can not only exist, but it can prosper. And if after only more than 10 years, the nursing home has only risen to an overall rating or below average rating according to Medicare.gov, and believe me, I'm aware that there are criticisms of the rating system, I think it's time to try something different. I'm sure we all know what continuing to do the same thing over and over, but expecting different results means in contemporary parlance. As I mentioned in my letter, I've been in a similar position of owning an enterprise that could only rise to the next level of potential by being purchased and owned by a company with greater resources than I had. I understand the pain of letting something go, but I also recognize the benefits of doing so under these circumstances. I would point out that when you became county board members, you rose to a higher level of ethical obligations and became duty-bound to serve all 208,000 citizens of Champaign County under the moral and legal standard of care of a fiduciary. Fiduciary duties may sometimes conflict with personal ethical duties. Under that duty of care falls such obligations such as the duty to manage assets competently, to be good stewards of the public treasury, and to act in the public's best interest. I hope that you will do some soul searching on your fiduciary duties to the entire county. In conclusion, give the nursing home a chance to experience a rebirth, a renaissance, if you will. Set it free to realize its true potential. Thank you.
Lindsay Yankas, or maybe Yanchas?
My name is Lindsay Yanchus. I am a lifelong resident of Champaign County. I am also an assistant public defender. I have been employed by Champaign County my entire adult professional career, which at this point spans about 9 years. I am here today because, while as a private citizen, I had long hoped that we would be able to keep the nursing home open, As an employee of Champaign County, I am beginning to see the very real consequences of Champaign County continuing to own the nursing home. I can't speak to all departments of the county, but I can certainly speak to most of those in the courthouse. Ms. Coram has already talked about what losing the Youth Assessment Center would mean in terms of juvenile cases in our office. In our office, we have a variety of felony, traffic, and misdemeanor attorneys. Our office is constitutionally mandated, and what that means is, as Champaign County, you have an elected state's attorney who prosecutes crimes. And under Gideon v. Wainwright, you must provide anyone who's going to be jailed or could be jailed as a consequence of being charged with an offense, a free lawyer. And I and most of the people sitting behind me are those free lawyers. Now, we're not free to you, but our clients certainly appreciate what we do. The felony attorneys in our office carry caseloads that are just below the American Bar Association standards for the maximum of the type of cases that we can represent people on. The traffic and the misdemeanor attorneys carry caseloads that are right on the line of the maximum of cases that they can handle in a year's period and be expected to provide adequate and effective representation. If the county does not sell the nursing home, it is my understanding that our office will lose likely 2 attorney positions or an attorney and an investigator. In the time I've been in the office, I worked in our office for several years without an investigator, and I've worked in our office for several years with an investigator. The bottom line is when attorneys have to do their own investigation, one, I don't have 30 years of experience as a police officer, which our current investigator does. So the investigations that I do are not up to the level that the investigations he currently does. Additionally, before we had an investigator, we had to have contract investigations. They were significantly more expensive. We could not afford to investigate most of our cases. Most of that budget went only to murders or serious sex cases, meaning misdemeanors and even other serious felonies had to be investigated by the attorneys assigned. If an attorney is investigating the case they are assigned to, they have to take another attorney with them, both for safety reasons and because as an attorney assigned to a case, even if I do an investigation, I can't testify to anything that I have found in court. So I have to have a separate witness. That's taking 2 bodies out of the office, out of being available to speak to their clients. Additionally, as has been mentioned, our caseloads will likely increase. If we lose 1 or 2 attorneys, each of us will take on more cases and probably go over the level of what is considered acceptable by the American Bar Association. That will have a snowball effect. If we are investigating our own cases and if we have higher caseloads, we have less time to speak to our clients, less time to review discovery, less time to meet with the state's attorneys assigned to our cases. That means that people will sit in the county jail for longer prior to their case being resolved. And as I am sure everyone sitting in this room is aware, people sitting in the county jail, 1, is bad for the community, and 2, is expensive for the county. I believe that not selling the nursing home will create a snowball effect where that money will just end up coming out of other departments and things will get more expensive elsewhere. Our office has long tried to do more with less, and we are happy to continue to do so. But the bottom line is we are asking that you consider the citizenry of Champaign County that we represent, the indigent, the people that have very little voice, and we are asking that you allow them the best representation possible. Thank you.
Belden Fields. I'm very concerned about jobs. I sympathize with the gentleman who had to work more than one job to make ends meet. But I want to tell you a story that probably very few of you know here. In the year 2002, I worked very hard to get the referenda passed on the nursing home. I did it for 2 reasons. One, because my mother had received such excellent care in the nursing home.
And secondly, because I had been the co-chair of a living wage committee of Champaign County, Living Wage Association. And in that capacity, we looked at how people in the two cities and the county were remunerated. And what we found was that the only place where people were paid below a living wage was in Champaign County, and the only institution in Champaign County in which people were paid below a living wage was the nursing home. The people, the custodial people, the people in the laundry, the people in the food service, their entry positions were all below living wage. Talk about having to work more than one job. The people in the Champaign County nursing home know that all too well. From my point of view, the county reneged. It adopted a formal policy, and then it claimed that, oh, well, those people weren't really the employees of the Champaign County Champaign County. They were employees of the nursing home, despite the fact that the county was paying their insurance. It was a renege, and it came out of the skin of the workers in Champaign County Nursing Home. I just thought you ought to reflect on that. Secondly, I want to get to the issue of the sale and the wonderful opportunity as it's portrayed that we have. I don't know the current ratings of this corporation. I do know that in 2009, of the 10 worst owners in the nursing home, according to the Chicago Reporter, 4 of those had the last name of Rotner. Maybe they've improved. Maybe they've turned their business around somewhat. Everybody can improve. But I have to say I'm still concerned about 2 things that are contemporary. One is the nature of the corporation, the way in which it operates, the way in which sometimes it keeps real estate and then sells off the management to other people, and thus avoids the responsibility by saying, well, that's not us, we just own the real estate, you know. Also, as I mentioned before, there is no way to prevent them. They might agree to all the conditions you put down, but if they decide to turn the management over to somebody else and say, we've sold it to those people, we're just a real estate, there's nothing that you are going to be able to do about that. The final thing that concerns me and pertains to their contemporary thinking is when Mr. Rotner said that one of the ways he thought he could put our nursing home on better footing was by reducing staff. He said we're overstaffed. And he not only overstaffed in terms of the total number of staff people, but, you know, why do we have so many RNs? Why don't we make do with LPNs? So he underqualified the staff, not only reducing total number, but underqualified. And I'm afraid that that is the way this kind of corporation makes its profits. That's its bottom line. Now, it's true, we can sell to this person, and he is free to do what he wishes, as long as he abides by those criteria. But if he transfers that ownership, there's no way we can hold him to it. And we're not going to know what's going on, because the only reason we know about the things that are not going well in Champaign County Nursing Home is because it's in the county nursing home, because we talk about it here, and because it's in the newspaper. So I think we've got some real thinking to do about, yes, some of our employees, including the employees in the nursing home who have been underpaid for a while, and also the residents of the nursing home. Do they count too? Do the residents count? I don't know how much they do count. Thank you.
Scott Tapley.
Hi, I'm Scott Tapley. I led the effort to pass the referendum to vote to sell and against the tax. Used to be on the county board. I was on the county board when it was built back in 2002, and so I've got a little bit of history with the nursing home. I understand a lot of the finances. It's been kind of on its unstable footing since day one, and it's continued to deteriorate pretty much for the last 15 years. And so I don't think that all needs to be rehashed. I don't have anything to add to the arguments or the thoughts that people have expressed earlier tonight far more eloquently than I can. But all I want to do is tell you a story. And don't worry, it's a short one. And it's also a true story about when I went to sell my house in 2007, end of 2007, early 2008, when the real estate crisis was just starting. The market was going bad. It was getting worse every single day. And I went to a realtor friend of mine, used to serve with him on the Champaign County Board. And I went to him because I know he's got integrity, and I knew he'd give me good advice. He had no conflicts of interest, and I knew he'd tell me the truth. And what he told me, very grimly, he said, "Scott, you're not going to like what I tell you." He said, "But you need to take my advice. It's extremely important." He said, you're not going to feel good about it. It may make you a little sick to your stomach. You may even throw up a little bit. But what you need to do," he says, "you're going to get an offer when you list your house." And he said, "You're not going to like it." He said, "But you need to take it. Whatever you get," he said, "you need to take it and run." And the reason for it was that the market was bad. It was getting worse every single day. There's no guarantee that there'd be another offer at all, let alone a decent one, or that one that I'd like. So I kind of took a deep breath. I listed the house. I got an offer. It made me sick. I didn't like it. And I took the offer, and that was on a Friday night. And that next day, there were 4 for sale houses within 100 yards of my house, and all 4 of those houses sold for 10 or 15% less than I got on mine. And I think this situation is very analogous to that. You've got a deteriorating business. I think you should be thanking God that you've got an offer. And it's not a lousy offer, it's a good offer. It's the price you were asking. And all I can tell you is no matter how sick it makes you feel, I think every single person in this room wants to see the best for the nursing home. I think almost everybody in this room would like to even see the county keep it if it was financially feasible, but it's not. It's just a fact, it's not. And I think, I'm hoping that the folks that are maybe on the edge or not feeling good about doing something that really doesn't make them happy, I think, as unfortunate as I think the best thing you can do is swallow hard and just take the offer. Thanks.
Cathy Manuel.
I'm Cathy Manuel. I want to speak just for a moment about the nursing home. I've been on the Nursing Home Advisory Board, as you all know, for a while. I came to the Nursing Home Advisory Board with 40 years of experience in healthcare. 23 of those were as a vice president of strategy or business development. And I had 2 years with a really good for-profit nursing home organization. And I came in with a bias. I was determined that the county should not own a nursing home. I came from the private sector where I felt that that wasn't appropriate. In my years on the Nursing Home Advisory Board, I got educated as to the benefits both to the employees and the residents of a county-owned nursing home. In 2016, the state stopped processing Medicaid applications as they had been for people who lived out south of I-80, and it caused a financial problems and crisis for the nursing home. And up until that point in time, we had had 5 years of fairly stable financial results. We have lots of different opinions in here on how to solve the problem that the nursing home is facing right now. Lots of conflicting information. There are questions being raised about this current bidder. There are others who have had bids from this bidder and turned them down. So just getting a bid doesn't mean it's what we need to offer, accept. Avi Rothner himself told me that he had bid on the Carl nursing home and that it was not accepted. I have no idea, nor did he explain why that was the case. But there are some questions that are being raised about this bidder. And I would just, and there are some other options and considerations. Nobody here wants some of the things to happen that have been discussed. I certainly don't want to see the demise of the Youth Assessment Center or anything happened to the Public Defender's Office. I would urge that we see if we could pause based on the number of questions that are being raised about this bidder. There's been offer, let's see, offer is probably not right, but suggestion made by a new player in town, OSF, who has met recently at the Champaign County Nursing Home and has indicated that they have an interest in working with the county, as they have in several other counties, to see what some solutions might be. I'm not suggesting a long pause. I'm thinking about like 90 days. There are enough good people on both sides of this argument that I think if we could sit down and look for a solution that would be good for the nursing home and not draconian for some of the other services in this county, that there might be one that we could find. If not, and if we feel that this is the best bidder, then we still have an opportunity to move ahead with it. Thank you.
Edra Schofield.
Good evening. I'm Edra Schofield. I worked 21 and a half years at Carl during a time when we were growing significantly and very quickly, and at a time when we purchased a nursing home in Savoy, which became the Carl Arbors. We had that, when we purchased that, it was very much one of those 1-star at the maybe 0.5-star nursing homes. It took an awful lot to bring it up. It became a real resource to the community. It's now CU Rehab, and I think it continues to do pretty well, but like every nursing home and every rehab center, has its issues and problems as well. So I understand the financial challenges in nursing homes in general, and I understand the financial challenge here. My primary understanding, though, that I feel in my heart is the understanding of what families go through when they're making decisions, the options that they have, and the things they have to weigh, not only the personal angst and guilt of having to place someone in a nursing home, but then trying to find the best possible place. As I've talked with people for the last many months about the situation with the nursing home, I have heard story after story after story of, yes, my mother was there, my grandmother was there, my aunt was there, my next door neighbor was there, and that's throughout the entire county. And almost without exception, those stories were very positive, and some of them were recent, some of them were a long, long time ago. But Champaign County Nursing Home, I think, has been a treasure in this community for decades. Again, I have a business background, so I understand the financial challenges. But my concern is with the bidders. And I sent you all some information that has already been alluded to. But I think when you make the Crane's list of top 10 worst 1-star nursing home owners, the dad and the 3 kids all made that list, that you have to wonder what kind of business practices those folks are accustomed to making. And that concerns me. I think when people voted for the referendum, they voted to allow the nursing home to be put up for sale. I don't think what they voted on was to have the nursing home and the treasure that most people believe it is put up for sale with a strong possibility that the treasure will be ruined. and no longer be an opportunity for good care. That's my concern. I don't know what kind of pause it would take for this group to make sure that you've done your due diligence on these people from a business practices standpoint. I know one of their practices is mixed populations, so that they have a population of the elderly, and they also have a population of psychiatric patients. Going back to the nursing home that Carl purchased years and years ago, they had that same population mix, and it was horrible. Unsafe for all of the old people and unsafe for many of the staff. So again, I hope you'll take a look at those credentials and make sure this bidder is right for us in the community to continue to have this asset. Thanks.
Claudia Lenoff.
Good evening. My name is Claudia Lenhoff, and I'm the Executive Director of the Champaign County Healthcare Consumers. There are significant concerns about the current bidder. These were concerns that were not able to be brought forth during the committee process because the committee process for looking at bids was really set up for comparing different bids. We only ended up with one. A lot of our research on the current bidder is on our website, and I will be sharing it with y'all tomorrow and on an ongoing basis. But given the concerns that exist about the current bidder for the nursing home and the need for more information, we are also asking you, the county board, to simply pause or slow down and not rush into the sale of the nursing home to this buyer. There are other developments that are promising for the nursing home, and these should be allowed some time to see what they produce. In addition, we have serious concerns about the pricing of the nursing home as listed by the brokerage firm Marcus & Millichap. Also, it's worth noting that the $11 million price tag that they came up with is not enough to resolve the debt of the nursing home. What if you could get more? What if you could get a better price? There are enough concerns to ask the county board to pause and slow down rather than rushing ahead with the sale to this buyer. But the biggest problem right now, however, has nothing to do with the buyer or the broker, but with the due diligence process, or lack of, by the county board in considering the sale of the nursing home. No one on the county board or in county administration is a healthcare finance expert. I am urging the county board to halt this process, step back, and take a different action. I am urging you to hire an independent specialist to conduct a valuation and situational assessment of Champaign County Nursing Home. This should be someone who specializes in long-term care valuations. This is something that should have been done on day one as soon as there was consideration of selling the nursing home. The nursing home is a public entity supported by Champaign County's taxpayers, and your fiduciary duty is to take this step. This is important for several reasons. This is not a simple real estate transaction. It is not the sale of a house or a family business, but a very specialized and complicated business. If you want to sell, it would help you arrive at a defensible asking price that would hopefully net you a better return. Right now, you do not know if the nursing home is undervalued. What if you could get a higher price? And whether or not you want to sell the nursing home, you might find out that there are opportunities for the nursing home, and you might decide to take a different course of action than to sell. We have an aging population. There are a lot of people excited about investing in long-term care exactly for that reason. Those opportunities exist for our county nursing home as well. Evaluation and situation assessment would help us understand some of the following. It would let us know where things are now, as well as a reasonable analysis of what the normalized financial situation should be and the forecast of what could be possible. What the financial impact of stabilizing the business would be. What the potential of this nursing home really is. I do believe we have a very good market position that is not reflected in the current asking price. Avi Rothner is not bidding to buy our nursing home as an act of charity. He has made a calculation that this can be a profitable enterprise for him. And for those of you who think that the broker's action of setting the price is the same as getting an independent valuation, it is not the same. Where did that price come from? I have not seen any documentation for where that price came from. A valuation would take a look at, it would do a local market analysis, it would look at the regulatory environment, it would look at different opportunities that we have that we may not even know we have. And it would, anybody who is fiscally conservative about this should want an independent valuation. Whether folks feel that we should sell or not, we should all agree that the first thing to do is to hire an independent expert who has valuation experience in long-term care. I'm afraid that if we don't do that, we might make a very, very bad mistake in this county, not just for the care of people, but also for the care of a community asset that has been with us for a long time and that we've put a lot of community resources into. Thank you.
Mary Hudson.
Chairman Weibel and County Board members, my name's Mary Hodson. I'm a member of the Advisory Committee of the Nursing Home. I'm president of the Nursing Home Auxiliary and a former employee of the nursing home. I worked there from 1986 to 2003, and then I worked for the Regional Planning Commission until my retirement. I moved here in 1985, and I was a member of a long-term care survey team. And I was immediately impressed by Champaign County Nursing Home, and I wanted to go to work there, and when there was an opportunity, I did so. As has often been pointed out, we had a waiting list in those days, a very good reputation. Much has been made about how good the nursing home used to be. Well, I was there, and I'm going to tell you, we always had problems because it's long-term care, and it's a people industry that employs lots of people taking care of lots of people, so you always have problems. But one of the things that I think made our reputation was that we always staffed above the minimum. We always had more direct care staff than what was required by the public health standards. Now, those standards have not increased since I was first involved in the long-term care industry in the 1970s. And yet our population at Champaign County Nursing Home has changed drastically. We used to take care of people that today you would see in an assisted living. That was a big part of our population. Today, those individuals are in assisted living. And the people who are at Champaign County Nursing Home are much more acute care patients. Come to my Thursday morning sing-along and observe for yourself what these individuals are able or not able to do for themselves. We began to have financial problems when careers that had traditionally been closed to women began to open up. And women could get all kinds of different jobs like attorneys. I can remember when I was young, hearing law offices say they would never hire a woman. Now, when those positions began to open up for women, fewer women went into nursing, and the cost of nurses went up, and our labor costs at Champaign County Nursing Home started to go up. And if you compare when that happened to when the finances at the nursing home started to decline, you will see an exact parallel. Now, today you're faced with some very difficult choices which I do not envy, and I thank you for your service, and I respect that. I realize you are confronted by both constituents and employees who feel that you should sell this facility. But I do hope when they confront you, you ask them if they themselves have long-term care insurance, or what their plans are for their own long-term care when the day comes. I used to feel that Champaign County was a very fine place to live. And one of the main reasons I felt so was because we had such a fine nursing home here that I hope to go to one day, that I hope to live in one day myself. That made me feel very comfortable. I can no longer say that because I fear that this home is going to be sold. And if it were being sold to a not-for-profit buyer, I could still probably feel pretty good about that. But I was here last week when Mr. Rothner spoke. And I certainly hope that you heard everything that he said. He said the first thing he noticed when looking at our ratings was the fact that we had a high rating for nursing, and he felt we were overstaffed, and that we should replace all our RNs with LPNs. He said many other things that troubled me, but I'm out of time. So let me just say that although he described some things that sounded good, but when I am in the nursing home and I need someone to take me to the bathroom, a library book, an ice cream cone, and not even a dog will take me to the bathroom. And believe you me, when you get there, that's going to be your biggest concern, is your direct care. And that's what we have traditionally done a good job of. And this may be your only choice. I understand that, but I do hope that you have listened carefully to everything this gentleman has said and that you have looked up his record on the internet. Thank you all for your service. I really do appreciate all the time you all put in.
Dottie Weiss. Sorry, Dottie Weiss, not Weiss.
Good evening. I think many of you may remember that I am a retired family physician and have dealt with nursing homes from a number of different perspectives, and also dealt with the care of my parents as they were in their last years of life. And I know a lot of the issues that are involved. And I really appreciated a lot of the comments that were made by people talking about services for children and services for and youth, and the importance of public defenders. My brother is a retired public defender, and I have great respect for that and think it's essential. But it's said that a community is judged by how it treats its most vulnerable members, its children and its elderly. The first, and I think we need to really look at that. The first person who spoke, Brent, said that the nursing home will continue to be a loss. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I'm familiar with all the financial problems. I think many of you know that I've been at many board meetings. I'm familiar with the problems of the county's finances and the nursing home finances. And I also have heard David Laker often say, when he comes to talk about the nursing home, but what about Sue, his wife, who's been there for a number of years? Not just what about Sue, but what about all the other people that are in the nursing home as patients? And so I want to consider four kind of different perspectives on this. One is the good care of the people who are the residents there, the patients there. And this has a major impact on their family. Second, the fact that SAK has had less than 10 months to make changes there. They haven't gotten nearly as much done as we would have hoped, but there are some very promising opportunities which have been mentioned, like the possibility that OSF may create a better relationship and send more patients there. And then there's also the fact that there are potentially financial measures that can be taken for restructuring debt on a short-term basis to buy a little bit of time so that it would be possible to take the 3-month pause in order to really go ahead and look at the fourth issue, which is the basic questions about the bidders. It's been mentioned that the Rothners were on the list of the 10 worst nursing home operators. Also, Altitude Health Systems and Extended Care Communities are the two co-bidders. Altitude Health is Avi Rothner's group, and he's the one that buys them, and then Extended Care do operation of a lot of places. But when the nursing home, when the committee that went to look at the nursing homes that were said to be related to these two organizations, when they went there, they didn't even realize that the five-star home wasn't owned by Altitude Health Services. It's owned by something called B&Z Grandchildren Trust. And they were not told about that. The quality of the nursing homes is a real question. One of the organizations that Avi Rothner is a co-owner with a number of nursing homes called Altitude Health owns 24 nursing homes, of which 15 are one-star nursing homes. There's a lot of information that's out there that I think that we need to, we as a county and the county board specifically needs to really consider, because we don't want to be feeling responsible for selling those people in the nursing home down the road. I think that there are options, and I strongly urge you to look at what those options are, step back, and get more information before selling to this particular bidder. And maybe there will be a chance that in the meantime, things will be improved. And one way, as I think I said last week, one way to give the nursing home a chance is not to spread as many negative and exaggerated stories about it as possible. Start spreading the good stories. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've run out of time, we've done our hour, so we're going to move on to communications from the board. Any communication? Mr. Rector.
Yes, thank you, Chair Weibel. I just wanted to go on record and thank the Illinois Marathon Group, Mike Lindeman, Jan Seeley, Jane DeLuce, and her team at Visit Champaign County. It's a great event. Has $10 million in economic impact to our county, and as a runner, I participated in it again this year, and it's just a great event. And I wanted to make sure that those organizations know that we appreciate their efforts. Thank you.
Ms. Furtado.
I also have a congratulations. I would like to congratulate our colleague, Mr. Tinsley, who graduated this weekend with his degree in political science, and that is not a small feat. And congratulations for that accomplishment this weekend.
Anything else? I just want to point out that the handout that Ms. Benson referred to is this one right here. It's in your package about the Youth Assessment Center. Okay, let's move on to Justice and Social Services. Mr. McGuire, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, recognition as Innovator County by the Stepping Up Initiative. It's informational. We were noted in the Stepping Up Initiative as one of the counties for task force made in behavioral health in the Sheriff's Office and community stakeholders. Recommendation for the County Board to better responding to the needs of individuals with mental illnesses to reduce jail bookings, length of stay, and recidivism in the jail and the community, which is something we've been working hard on, and which is good. You can read more about that. Second is a request for approval of an application for, and if awarded, acceptance of Category 3 JMH ACP grant. And we'll talk a little bit about that, if we can get a motion and a second. This mental health collaboration program grant is something we had tried to apply for before, and we didn't receive it. It's kind of associated with the crisis planning grant that we had in the past. Mental Health Board would work to provide the matching money for the proposal. We would ask for a grant of $750,000 in a project that would run 36 months. The purpose would be to address the system needs and build an existing strengths by establishing a behavioral health response team available to law enforcement entities in the county in order to enhance linkages existing and community resources and provide appropriate clinical oversight. Team members will be employees of Rosecrans Central of Illinois, its largest provider of mental health services. We would have teams and work throughout the community to try to direct people with issues of mental health and behavioral health, to try to direct them away from the jails. If there's any other questions, we can talk more about that, or if you have questions, I can try to answer those. No? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Yeah, passes. Thank you. The next are our monthly reports, and if without objection, we'll place those on file. Items, no other business. Chair's report, I don't have one. Designate items placed on consent agenda would, of course, be B.
All right, thank you, Mr. McGuire. Next is policy personnel and appointments with Mr. Rosales.
Okay, I have a few appointments. The first one is Board of Review, 2 positions, 1 Democrat and 1 Republican, for a 2-year term beginning June 1st through May 31st, 2020.
I move the appointment of Elizabeth Bergner Patton and Mr. Robert Zebo-Zeeby.
Okay, second by Patsy. All those in favor, discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great, thank you. Penfield Water District, 2 positions, term beginning June 1st through May 31st, 5-year term. Pius?
I move to appoint Mr. Robert Kettner and Mr. Randall Zindars.
Okay. Second by Harbor. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. 3, Sangamon Valley Public Water District, 2 positions, term beginning June 1st, 2018 through May 31st, 2023 for a 5-year term.
I move the appointment of Mr. Robert Buchanan and Mr. Michael Melton.
Seconded by Goss. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Great. Dewey Community Public Water District, 2 positions, term beginning June 1st through May 31st for a 5-year term. Pius?
I move the appointment of Karen Huey and Mr. William Roller.
Okay, moved by Pius. Got to get a second? Second by Esri. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. We've done 5, right? Okay, Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District, 1 position is a Republican position, term to begin June 1st through May 31st for a 3-year term. Pius?
I move the appointment of Mr. Jerry Likey.
Okay, second by Kyle. All those in favor? Oh, discussion?
I do have a quick question, just because for this particular item, we had a public comment about the finances of this. I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but when would be the appropriate time to have that discussion? Now? Okay. Mm-hmm. Then I would like to have that discussion. I thought that Ms. Putnam made a compelling case. So can we resolve both the approval and the finances? Not at this time? But we could at least start talking about it.
What do you mean by finances?
What we pay, what they pay, or do they decide themselves what they pay?
That is
okay.
a decision of the Sanitary District Board.
I see what you're saying. Got you. I just wanted to acknowledge that the comment was there and see how we could facilitate that discussion.
Thank you, Stephanie. Patsy?
Yes, I have
a number of comments building on what Ms. Putnam put before us this evening. First of all, it's a Republican nomination, and I respect that the Republicans are putting this forward, and the chair in turn is putting it forward. But there are a number of things that have always troubled me about the sanitary district, and I want these on the public record, and maybe that will move members of that three-member board to start doing a few things. I reappointed Mr. Like myself, and so I've had this conversation with him at that time, and I called him today and had a conversation with him of my following concerns, or the same things I talked to him about 3 years ago. One is this board meets at 10 a.m. on Thursday morning. This is not very conducive to transparency of the meetings of this board. They do not video the year meetings, so the public really has a very hard time having any idea what this board is covering. As Ms. Putnam mentioned, the information to contact the members of the board is not available on their website, which seems a bit troubling. It has to do it through the director of the sanitary district. And as to the salary, I did ask Mr. Like again about the salary situation, and he is not willing to put a second on any motion that's put on the table concerning salaries. I find that very disappointing. That salary is so far out of scale of what any other appointed or elected officials in our community get, and I think of the many people who serve on boards very willingly where there's no compensation at all. The second thing I brought up with him once again is that by statute that board could be expanded from 3 to 5 members with the change of 3 words in that statute, and it would behoove us if that were the case, because the 3 people right now are all political appointments. There's nothing in the statute that requires any expertise that could be used in handling the business that comes before them and the board, and 2 extra members could be designated with certain criteria to fill those kind of roles. He seems willing to bring that forth as a statutory change, and that would have to go through our representatives in Springfield. So now that I've put this on the public record, and I do have respect for what the Republicans have put forward, I will support this very hesitantly. Thank you.
Thank you for putting that on record, Patsy. Is there any other further comments on this appointment? Stan? Jack?
Yeah, just for clarification, so I understand this, you appoint members to this sanitary group, and they get to decide their salary. And by statute, it's allowed up to $6,000, and they choose to go to the maximum. And what's preventing us from lowering this amount?
We don't have the authority.
We have the authority not to appoint people, though, who choose to receive the maximum.
Well, I'm not interested in micromanaging the board, Mr. Anderson.
No, I understand that. So it would take a process, take time, reappointments. Thank you.
Well, thank you for putting that on record, and thank you for following up on that, and my apologies, Jack, for massacring your name. Okay. Jim. Oh, here we go. Jim?
Thank you. My name's not Stan either, you're right. So we'll try to have
I just like Stan, that's all it is.
That's okay. Stan's a nice guy, it's okay. Just don't call me John Rector. No, we'll try to have some discussions with Mr. Like and see what we can do. And, you know, he's obviously not the only person on this board, on that board, I should say. But we'll discuss it, but the comments are noted, and as far as Republican person, so
Thank you, Jim. Are there any further comments, questions? Great. Item, oh, great. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes.
I'm requesting that not be on the consent agenda.
Okay, motion to not put item number 5 on the consent agenda, and by Patsy and second by Jack. All those in favor? Nothing?
They don't need a
Okay.
vote.
Okay, let me cross this out here. Okay, item B, clerk's report for April 2018. I asked to be placed on file, and it's also on the website. And item C, county administrator's report. Are there any questions on that? County administrator also, that report, I would like to go ahead and put it on file. And item D, other business, appointment of,
I'll move the appointment of Stan Harper as chair and Shana Cruz as vice chair of the County Facilities Committee.
Okay, and item
Need a
2?
second.
Oh, second by Patsy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Great. Motion passes. Item 2, Pius?
Actually, I did both of them.
Oh, omnibus, okay. Chair's report, there are a few appointments that need to be made that expire June 30th, 2018. Various cemetery boards, associations, forest preserve districts, Board of Health, and Developmental Disability Board. Thus, for information only, just wanted to give you an update on that. So if you know anybody that may be interested in serving, go ahead and you could get those applications online. Designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda, A1 through 4, and D1 and 2.
Very good, Ms. Rosales, thank you. Let's move on to finance, Ms. Furtado.
The first eight items are all related. So for those following at home and in the audience, just very briefly, you have a memo on page 27 that in November of 2017, the county board approved a property tax levy, which allowed for additional levy growth based on the possibility of a ruling in the hospital property tax exemption case. The county's budget was also prepared to include additional revenue and in some instances, additional appropriation, although staff was told pause on that because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. As of March 2017, the case was remanded back to the circuit court, and as of April 2018, a ruling had not yet occurred. Therefore, the county will not receive that additional property tax revenue in fiscal year 2018. So we have 8 separate items, but just to give you a sense of this, it represents $959,573,000 in decreased revenue and $399,652 of decreased appropriation in total.
Would you repeat the last figure you gave, 399 what?
652,000, or $652, not thousand. Both of those, right, should just be dollars. I apologize about that. So 959,573 and 399,652. You are also very welcome to check my math with Tammy or Deb. Okay, so moving on to the first budget amendment, 18-00013, Fund 076, Tort Immunity Tax, Department 075, General County Appropriations, none. Decreased revenue, $48,450. Yes.
If you could read them all off, we could make it an omnibus.
I would be glad to. All right. Just read them. I have to read them all the way through, though, right? Okay. Reason to remove the budgeted property tax revenue associated with levying to capture new growth in a potential hospital property tax ruling. A ruling has not occurred, and the county will not receive the additional property tax revenue. Number 2, Budget Amendment 18-00014, Fund 0080, General Corporate, Department 075, General County Appropriations, none. Decreased revenue, $474,119. Reason, to remove the budgeted property tax revenue associated with levying to capture new growth in a potential hospital property tax case ruling. A ruling has not occurred, and the county will not receive the additional property tax revenue. 3, Budget Amendment -18-00015, Fund 089, County Public Health Department 049, Board of Health, decreased appropriations, $33,641, decreased revenue, the same $33,641. Reason, remove budgeted property tax revenue and related budgeted expenditure associated with levying to capture due growth in a potential hospital property tax case ruling. A ruling has not occurred, and the county will not receive the additional property tax revenue. 4, Budget Amendment 18-0016, Fund 083, County Highway Department 060, Highway, decreased appropriations, $74,465, decreased revenue, $74,465. Reason, to remove budgeted property tax revenue and related budgeted expenditure associated with levying to capture new growth in a potential hospital property tax ruling. A ruling has not occurred, and the county will not receive the additional property tax revenue. 5, Budget Amendment 18-0017, Fund 084, County Bridge Department 060, Highway, appropriation none, decreased revenue $37,352. Reason, to remove the budgeted property tax revenue and related budgeted expenditure associated with levying to capture new growth in a potential hospital property tax case ruling. A ruling has not occurred, and the county will not receive the additional property tax revenue. 6, Budget Amendment -18-000-22, Fund 090, Mental Health Department 053, Mental Health Board, decreased appropriations $138,315, decreased revenue $138,315. Reason, to remove the budgeted property tax revenue and related budgeted expenditure associated with levying to capture new growth in a potential hospital property tax case ruling. A ruling has not yet occurred, and the county will not receive the additional property tax revenue. 7, Budget Amendment 18-0023, Fund 108, Development Disability Department 050, Developmental Disability Board, decreased appropriations $115,402, decreased revenue $115,402. Reason, to remove the budgeted property tax revenue and related budgeted expenditure associated with levying to capture due growth in a potential hospital property tax case ruling. A ruling has not yet occurred, and the county will not receive the additional property tax revenue. And finally, 8, Budget Amendment 18-00024, Fund 081, Nursing Home Department 410, Administrative, decreased appropriations $37,829, decreased revenue $37,829 for the same reason. Do I have a second? Mr. Summers. See, any discussion? Mr. McGuire.
Thank you very much. So how does this impact our budget and our reserve? To take all this out, and how much is the total?
As Ms. Furtado mentioned, we had discussions with the departments that had this additional revenue in their budgets, and they were very aware that it was not likely we would receive this money. So when we prepared the budget, we were also cognizant of that. For instance, in the general fund, we didn't appropriate an equivalent expenditure. We were aware that we were not going to receive the revenue, and in the event that we did, we justified that by saying we would move our fund balance towards our target fund balance. So those were the discussions that we had with the departments to make sure that they were aware that they would not likely receive the revenue. They should not expend the appropriation if there was appropriation included in their budget.
Very good, thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Furtado, I believe there's no motion to put it on the floor. There was just simply a second. You need a motion to get it on the floor.
I'll motion en bloc to.
Sorry. All right. I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought I was moving it. No. Okay. So, all right. So we have Mr. Summers and Mr. McGuire. Any other questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Sorry, I got so caught up in reading them, I lost track of the process. Next, number 9, a very interesting project, Budget Amendment 18-0021, Fund 614, Recorders Automation Department, OT3, 023 recorder, increased appropriation of $6,700, increased revenue, none from the fund balance, reason to pay for temporary workers for a special digitization project. Do I have a motion? Mr. Anderson, second. Mr. Storr, I'll get you next time. Any questions?
Could we have the recorder come up and explain this, please?
Yes, I'd be glad
And the
to.
process.
So what we've done over time is the Recorder's Automation Fund has built up a fund balance. Around the state, this has been used to basically hire out, contract out massive digitization projects, moving books into digital format. And so we have, I think I showed you about a $500,000 bid to do some of this work. So we use some creative thinking. We're using a company out of Rantoul to move microfilm to digital. And then we're also working with Community Choices. Some of you might be aware of them. They're funded in part by the Developmental Disabilities Board. So we've hired one person, and this budget amendment will give us the ability to bring in 2 more people for about 50 hours a week total. And then we'd like to continue that the next couple of years. And so over the course of 3 years, these volumes that would have been about $560,000 would be done for about $60,000 to $70,000 over the course of 3 years. There's substantial amounts of programming on my side as well, so it's not just those 2 elements, but together and then all these become available to the people who subscribe to our services, the title companies, the banks, and others who need these to do title searches, et cetera. So it's kind of a win-win-win in many respects, and our fund balance continues to dwindle in that fund because of the fact that we are offsetting some of our general corp expenses using the automation fund. This will allow us to sustain that for a longer amount of time. And so that's a positive thing, because I don't think anybody's got there's no gold at the end of any rainbow that I've seen. So, so it's a good project, I think. So I appreciate your support.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Storr.
Yes. Will the microfilm be archived after the scanning is done?
Well, not only is the microfilm and the books will, the microfilm none of them will ever leave. So we'll always have the books and we'll always have the microfilm. So there's, and all of our new documents, things that were recorded today are microfilmed within within about 6 weeks. So we have ongoing, so even our new digital items are microfilmed, and that microfilm is archived.
Ms. Petrie.
I just want to thank you for reaching out to the developmental disabilities folks to bring them in on your project.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 10, Budget Amendment 18-0025, Fund 080, General Corporate Department 028, Information Technology, increased appropriation $19,893, increased revenue none from the fund balance. And the reason for this, these funds were needed to cover unexpected purchase of Sophos antivirus software to clean up the virus outbreak at the courthouse, sheriff's office, and adult detention center. And if you have any questions, but okay, so first of all, do I have a motion? Mr. Goss, a second. Mr. Rector, no, I didn't know if you wanted the second. Okay, okay. And now, any questions?
Just a brief description, if you could, on how this happens.
Generally, a virus of this type comes in through an email attachment.
We're not sure who actually executed the email attachment, but we do know which computer was the first one infected. Once it got onto our network, it's a type of virus that spreads using what's called a protocol, which is how network traffic is defined. It's a protocol that we have to use so that people can access files on the AS400, which is used as a business platform throughout every county office. So using that protocol, it spread through the segment of the network in the old courthouse first, and then we believe that somebody carried a wireless device like a Surface Pro, which they use in the courtrooms. We believe somebody carried that from the old courthouse to the new courthouse, which then infected that segment of the network, which also included the sheriff's office. And then the following weekend, the public defender's office took an infected laptop from the courthouse out to the satellite jail so that they could show video evidence to an inmate who was incarcerated at the satellite jail. So it spread to that subnet that weekend. We were able to contain it to those three segments of the network, so it never got out here at Brookins, which we were extremely concerned about because this happened around the election time. And we initially thought it might be a targeted attack on our election infrastructure, but after consulting with the FBI and Homeland Security and the state police, we determined that it was not. Their recommendations for remediating the virus included reloading all of the infected computers and then building out a separate network to put the clean computers on, which, basically we're not staffed for that. It would have taken, an immense amount of effort, plus bringing in computer emergency response teams to assist us with that. So in talking with Computer Discount Warehouse, which is one of our vendors, they suggested that we try a next generation antivirus like Sophos or Carbon Black. So what we did is we trialed Sophos at the satellite jail over Easter weekend. It cleaned the satellite jail up like that. So we went ahead and purchased it out of existing funds. And right now it looks like we've got everything cleaned up.
Great job. Thank you.
Ms. Petrie.
Good job, Andy. Thank you
Thanks.
very much. I know that was a heavy load for everyone. It isn't clear from the conversation that occurred in our caucus if this is a one-time cost.
No, it's an annual cost.
At this same amount or a lesser amount?
Depending on what happens with the nursing home, if we keep the nursing home, it'll probably be around the same. If we sell the nursing home, then we'll be able to get some licenses back and we'll be able to reduce that cost in future years.
Okay, and then second question, and it may be because I don't understand all of this technology, as you well know. However, we are going to sometime be on the verge of this conversation of improving our technology. When we get that done and we get all of that set, will we need something like this, or it will happen no matter?
We'll need something like this even more so when we modernize
When
our
we
infrastructure.
improve.
Because a lot of the initiatives that we're looking at are cloud-based, and with a virus like this that harvests credentials for logging into sites, we'll get cut off from those cloud-based services with a virus like this.
Oh, I see.
Which we actually did. There were banking sites that they use at the jails to confirm bond amounts were cutting us off. The circuit clerk's office was cut off from Busey Bank's website because they could detect that their computers were infected with this virus.
Wow.
So it's incredibly important that we maintain software like this in the future.
So my second question was fruitful because we all learned something. Thank you very much.
Now, the one good thing about our environment right now is we're on an AS400 for the majority of our business services. And I know everybody hates the AS400. They think it's antiquated technology. But the AS400 is a rock-solid platform that does not get infected by viruses. And at no time was any of our data, our business data or our court data or our jail data, in danger of being corrupted or stolen because of the fact that it's on an AS400 and not on a Windows-based platform. Now, we're going to be moving to Windows-based platforms in the future, so, and that's another reason why we need to start looking at cloud technologies over local technologies. Our local servers got infected with this. None of them were critical to our business operations. They're mainly just file servers that hold documents that people have created so that we have a central repository for stuff so that we can back it up. But if our main business platforms were locally hosted, it's very possible that they could have gotten infected with this virus and information could have gotten stolen. Having a posture in the cloud when you're considering Windows-based platforms, I feel is extremely important, and I'm glad that that's the direction that the county is going with some of our next software platforms.
Andy, I would like to point out that you just summarized the entire plot of the television show Battlestar Galactica. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, Budget Amendment 18-00026, Fund 080, General Corporate, Department 040, Sheriff. Increased appropriations, $11,025. Increased revenue, $11,025. And the reason for this is funds received this fiscal year for totaled squad car number 19 to be placed back into the automobile vehicle line item to allow for replacement. Do I have a motion? Mr. Tinsley, do I have a second? I'm sorry, Mr. Esri, that's what I meant to say. Do I have a second? Just roll with it.
Ms. Furtado, are you renaming the whole board?
I am. I'm going to work on it by the time I'm done. Yeah, Mr. Esri. Do I have a second? Mr. Goss. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Budget Amendment 18-0027, Fund 630, Circuit Clerk Operation and Administrative Department 030, Circuit Clerk. Increased appropriations, $115,424. Increased revenue, none from fund balance. Reason, transfer of salary lines from 613 Court Automation to 630 Clerk Operations to cover 2018 salary of Court Technology Specialist. Do I have a motion? Mr. Anderson, do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Clifford. And any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Budget Amendment 18-00228, Fund 633, State Attorney Records Automation Department 041, State's Attorney. Increased appropriation $5,000. Increased revenue, none from fund balance. Reason to pay for data importation and document management subscriptions. Subscriptions is for the Carl property tax case. Do I have a motion? Mr. Rector, do I have Mr. Summers for the second? And any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Budget transfer 18-00004, Fund 080, General Corporate, Department 075, General County, in the amount of $101,000. And the reason is to transfer the funds to pay the nursing home and MSN settlement obligation. Do I have a motion? Mr. Anderson, do I have a second? Lorraine, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And next up, we will hear from the treasurer.
The first item on the agenda for the Treasurer's Office tonight is the monthly reports, which are available on our website. I'd ask that they just be accepted and placed on file. All right. So the general corporate fund cash flow, we're looking here at the May numbers. And as you can see, it shows a healthy balance at the end of May. That's because our first real estate tax distribution should be made approximately May 24th. That is our goal, is to do that on Thursday, May 24th, to make distributions to all the taxing districts within the county. That'll be about $2.7 million is what we estimate for the county at this point. And so as you can see, without that distribution, the general fund is not in healthy shape, especially when you consider we have already borrowed $1 million from the Public Safety Sales Tax Fund. At this moment, I cannot give you an answer as to whether we'll have to borrow more money to get through the end of the month. We have one payroll remaining in May. We still have authority for an additional $500,000 from public safety sales tax. My hope is that we will not need to, but I cannot guarantee that at this point. As far as the cash goes at the nursing home, they have cash on hand right now to cover their payroll, their next payroll. So now that they have that covered, they are working towards accounts payable. So I don't believe a loan from general corporate fund to the nursing home during the month of May will be necessary. Sure.
Ms. Petrie.
What is the amount for the staff payroll?
Nursing home payroll?
Yeah.
It continues to average right around $235,000 a payroll. So that's, I can't tell you what it'll be on May the 25th
Okay,
right
so
now, but it'll be right around
continues
that.
to be
And they have at least that much in cash right now.
Okay, but it still continues to be on the high side due to overtime and things like that.
I believe that is correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So as you see, as we forecast out through the rest of the year, using averages, these are using 4-year averages, we show the general fund at the end of the year at $4.862 million, which is in line with projections that Ms. Ogden has worked on, and is in line generally with the 12.5% fund balance goal. I'm happy to tell you that as of today, we are at 12.12% collected for real estate taxes out of $363 million. That's a little over $36.5 million that our office has collected since May 1st. That includes the advance pay money. We were able to work over the weekend, there that first weekend in May, and get that rolled into our system. So we are slightly ahead of where we've been in previous years due to the large amount of money that was done in advance pay in December of 2017. Like I said, we hope to do our first distribution on May the 24th, and that goes to all the taxing districts throughout the county. The Champaign Unit 4 School District has by far generated the most phone calls, and they also stand to be the largest taxing district in the county as far as receiving property taxes. The phone calls have generally been, why is my bill so high? How did this happen? And quite honestly, in my opinion, the saddest phone calls have been from senior citizens who have every exemption available to them, and they're still seeing $300, $400, $500 increases to their tax bill. There's a lot of people that, in my opinion, didn't understand how this was going to affect their tax bill when they voted. And now they're learning it, and I've had some really wonderful people call and say, how am I going to do this? I'm on Social Security. And I can't give them an answer. It's done. And they have every exemption available to them.
Ms. Petrie.
I have a follow-up to that. What about the subset of population properties that were annexed in by MTD?
There are approximately 800 parcels within Southwest Champaign that were both annexed into, they were annexed into the MTD district this year, so this is the first time they're seeing CUMTD taxes, as well as the Unit 4 School District bond increase. They saw significant increases above and beyond the Unit 4, and they have not been happy customers.
Is that about 15% roughly?
That's what
I
it
mean,
ended
the
up-
joint
mhm.
together.
Yeah, the jump together was at least that for those houses.
And Unit 4 was about 12%.
About, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Goss?
Just a quick question. It looks like you've got the payback of the public safety sales tax in September.
I do.
Is there any reason to hold off and not pay it back earlier?
We generally just, there is no reason to really pay it earlier. The Public Safety Sales Tax Fund is not in need of the additional money. It allows us to get through most of the real estate tax collection season and just make sure that everything is in. There's really no reason to do it sooner than that. It's just one of those things that's not a pressing thing, just in case we need it. If something went haywire between now and September, it's available.
Any other questions? We do have a resolution related to the treasurer, resolution authorizing the execution of a deed of conveyance of the county's interest or cancellation of the appropriate certificate of purchase on real estate permanent parcel 14-0336305013. Do I have a motion? Mr. Goss, do I have a second? Mr. Anderson. Any discussion?
So just to explain this to the board, this is this highlighted strip of land. This is in the village of Rantoul. It runs along Michael Drive. And this is a parcel that is no more than 6 feet wide by the entire length of a subdivision. And I have been unable to find a reason as to why this really exists. It's one of these surveying things that sometimes they needed to correct something, so they put in a piece of property like that. No one's paid the taxes on it in many years. It's ended up in the tax auction, the tax sale auction, and then it ended up on the scavenger sale. No one has bought it. And we realized this, and I called up our good friend Rick Snyder and said, hey, Rick, the Village of Rantoul should do something about this and prevent a Nasty Joe situation. And they jumped right on it. So they will be purchasing this for $648, the minimum bid. And then I believe their intention is to work with the property owners along there to have them pick up that grand total of $648 in some way, shape, or form, and then add that little strip of land to all of those properties so that they will become taxable properties by the, and we won't have a situation. So this is a very good thing.
Thank you for that proactive report. Any other additional questions or comments? All right.
How do property owners, will they be able to call your office and see if any strip of property?
Sure, that's a great question. Actually, I think Chair Weibel has actually been working on this. I don't want to steal his thunder, but our GIS department has introduced just in the last couple of days a new application on the GIS maps that's readily available to the public, where they can actually just click on a link it's linked to from my department's website, and it shows these small, odd strips of land and little pieces. Like there's a little triangle piece of land that's not more than probably 15 square feet over off of Rainbow View Drive. Makes no sense that it's there, but it's there. And so people can go and see these little properties. You can click on it, find out who the owner is. You can find out if taxes are being paid on it. If it's owned by you, let's say you've got 2 pieces of land and you've got your main parcel and then you got the little one, it's got a link to tell you how to go about combining those parcels into one with the Supervisor Assessment's Office. So I've got to give credit to Chair Weibel. That was his initiative, and so he's been working on that for quite a while. But anybody can call the Treasurer's Office, and either if we can't answer it, we'll send them to the Supervisor Assessment's Office so they can answer it as well.
We got a press release about that, correct? Cool. I just want to make sure that, so that's really cool. Any other questions or discussions on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Report from the auditor. Okay, so we will put that report on
The
file.
auditor's out of town.
That's okay. We'll put that report on file. Now, the nursing home and county administration.
Actually, you want to go to the addendum first,
Oh, okay, we are going to the addendum first.
C2.
Oh, okay. Resolution authorizing interfund loans from fund reserves to other funds. Do I have a motion, Mr. Esri? Do I have a second? Sorry about that. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure I had my notes ahead of me. I'm sorry. Second by Mr. Marsh. And any questions, discussion? Yes, Mr. Storr.
I'm a little new to this. Is this a pretty common thing to transfer from one fund to another?
This is actually being done to offset negative balance in one fund by another fund where they are deposited together effectively. So your tort immunity fund has a negative balance, which is made up for by the self-funded insurance fund, to which the tort immunity fund makes payments, and they're in the same account. So it doesn't, but this just formalizes for the audit purposes the fact that there is a loan from self-funded insurance to tort immunity to cover the shortfall. And similar
So
for the other two.
these are loans, and that'll be repaid at some point.
Right, they're in combined funds, and they're basically covering.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Now, the nursing home and county administration report.
The cash flow report for the nursing home is in your packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions. It's the same format that you've been seeing the last couple of months. I guess I would point out that you can see that the total expenditure outstanding as of April 30th, 2018 is $4.156 million. And at the end of March 31st, 2018, that was $3.97 million. At the end of February, that was $3.75 million. So clearly the outstanding obligations are growing with each month as we move forward. It's a function of the fact that there is not enough revenue coming in to cover all of the current month expenditures. If you look in the first column, the current month, the only expenditures that are being paid are $18,532, while the total obligations, this is for non-payroll, the total obligations for the month were $347,735. So this is just to show you where the cash position is of the nursing home as we're moving forward. The subsequent pages, the next report shows the actual payments that were made in April, the AP payments that were made. And the third report is the summary provided by SAK of all the outstanding AP.
Thank you. Any questions before we move on?
The next report is provided by the nursing home and is standard what you would normally see. And then the third item is a request for an amendment. If you will recall, you adopted a resolution which provided some parameters on how nursing home payroll and AP would be managed. And what we learned last month is that those parameters were a bit too restrictive. So where we limited the fact that AP could only be paid during payroll weeks, That doesn't work for the nursing home. They sometimes have to make payments each week depending on what's going on with the vendors and what payments are necessary to keep operations moving. So this change that is recommended would simply remove the fact that AP could only be done in payroll weeks and would basically say that accounts payable for the nursing home will be processed only after the determination that there will be adequate funds to cover the next payroll, with additional funds available to be applied to the accounts payable. So for example, we already know there's enough available right now to cover payroll next week. So if there were some bills that we needed to pay this week that were in the cash above that amount required for payroll, we could go ahead and pay those bills this week. Under the previous form of the resolution, we would not have been able to do that.
This requires a vote?
Yes, it does.
Yes. So first of all, do I have a motion for that? And do you want me to actually read out the changes in the language?
I don't think you have to. It's in the packet.
Okay. So do I have a motion? Mr. Anderson, second, Mr. Storr. So it's moved and seconded. Does anybody have any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next up, County Administrator, still up. Tammy, thank you.
You have a copy of the General Corporate Fund Budget Projection Report. I believe it's your yellow packet. And this is the first report that you're seeing for fiscal year 2018. I want to preface this report by saying this only reflects actuals for the first 4 months of the fiscal year. There are still 8 months remaining. So you should expect to see fluctuations in revenues and expenditures over those next 8 months. Starting with the revenues, property taxes, you can see the budget variance here is a negative $545,000. A significant portion of that is related to the budget amendment that you just approved, removing $474,000 out of the budgeted revenues for the Carl hospital property tax case. The second line that I want to draw your attention to under state shared revenue is the 1% sales tax. You can see here that we're projecting that the budgeted variance is an increase of $75,000 over what we initially had anticipated. And this 1 cent sales tax has continued to surprise me. In 2017, we saw a nearly 18% growth over the prior fiscal year. So far, year to date, we have seen 7% growth over the prior fiscal year, year to date, and we were actually expecting that we would see a decline in these revenues, predominantly because of the Mahomet annexation. So as I had mentioned a month or so ago, we do now have IDOR reciprocal information that we can better analyze this. However, we only have that information for 2017. I don't even have the first quarter for 2018 yet. So I really can't explain why this is performing so well, but I think we'll take it. Income tax, you can see, is anticipated as overstated in the budget. The budget variance is almost a negative $150,000. And one point I want to make here is that we have talked about a potential extension of the 10% cut that was proposed by the governor during his budget address. This negative of $150,000 does not reflect an extension of that cut. So if the legislature were to approve that, then you can expect that this will further deteriorate to about another negative $136,000. And the final two lines that I want to point out on the revenue report are fees and fines. We had adjusted in the 2018 budget for the anticipation that we would be receiving less revenues than the prior fiscal year. However, as it looks so far this year, I believe that we are going to continue to see even further deterioration than what we had initially projected. So you can see the combination of these two lines is a significant impact to revenues. Moving to the expenditure report, there's really only one line that I want to point out, and that is the fringe benefits line under personnel. You can see the budget variance is negative $283,000, so we're anticipating that we will underspend that line. It's predominantly made up of health insurance, and one of the reasons that you will see the significant underspending here that we're projecting is because we did have an increase in the number of waivers for health insurance in fiscal year 2018. The county did switch its provider, and so I can't say specifically how many people did not continue health insurance with the county because of that. However, again, we are anticipating that we will underspend this line. And the budget transfer that you just approved for the nursing home will come from this line here. So next month, when I prepare this report, you will not see such a large variance. It will be reduced by $101,000. So moving to the summary page, projected revenue for 2018 at this point is $36.16 million. Projected expenditure is $35.83 million, which translates to a revenue to expenditure difference of $328,000 to the surplus. The fund balance projection with this additional $328,000 sits at about $4.88 million by the end of the fiscal year, and that translates to a 13.6% fund balance. A couple of points I want to make here is that when you take into account the $101,000 budget transfer that we're going to be making if the county board approves that at the county board meeting on the 24th, that will reduce this fund balance to $4.7 million and the fund balance percentage to 13.3%. Another thing I want to remind the county board of is that included in the fund balance is a reserve fund balance number of just under $300,000 that is there for an offset to the liability that the county is exposed to in the hospital property tax case. The last numbers that I have for the general fund, the total liability for just the general fund was around $808,000. So the $300,000 that's in fund balance reserve is not nearly significant enough. However, it is actually recorded on the balance sheet as reserve fund balance. So just so you know, if there is an unfavorable ruling, then $300,000 of this fund balance will go towards that liability. And at the bottom, you can see that I have indicated the balance of the outstanding nursing home loans that are due in 2018, the $726,802. The county board is going to have to consider those this fiscal year. And so I have shown here what the impact of loan forgiveness is on our fund balance. And you can see that the expenditures would increase by that $726,000, and the fund balance would be reduced by that amount, which translates to an ending fund balance as a percentage of the 2018 budget of 11.4%, below our fund balance minimum requirements.
I have one question, Tammy. For the $500,000 difference for the hospital property tax case, would that be something that you would anticipate if the decision went against us, we would have to pay from the general fund in 2019? Or or not even asking you to project if this case is ever going to be solved, would we have to do it immediately after the case was solved? Or decided, solved, I guess isn't the right word.
I don't know if Ms. Reitz are you better able to speak to that? I mean, I don't know. Okay. You know, I guess there's a possibility there could be some kind of repayment structure, okay, but I'm assuming it would include interest.
I'm sure it would. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from anybody else?
The budget change report.
Sorry. Oh, okay, sorry.
The only new item, for, I guess all of these are new since you didn't have this report yet, but you can see how the budget has been amended so far year to date. And you'll see the amendments that were approved tonight added next month.
Ms. Petrie.
Can we go back to the first page, please? I just want to double check your second line across. Treasurer? Is this your report, the first page your report, or? Okay, I have a question for you then. I didn't.
I had a chance to leave.
No. Okay, right below the first line in June, it's a minus 45,000, but in December, it's 420.
That's right. It's interest only in June, interest and principal in December.
Oh, okay, I just thought maybe a digit got lost.
Yep, nope, that's it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Tammy? Seeing none, we also have a resolution adopting Champaign County financial policies, which are outlined on page 58 to 63. Mr. Anderson is a first. Second. Thank you, Mr. Clifford. And any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And the last item of business, resolution authorizing the fiscal year 2019 budget process. This is the first time for me as a county board member to have gone through this. And so basically what this is doing is it is instructing the staff to start the budgeting process. Since we do not know the disposition of the nursing home, what we are doing now is voting on two different options, option A and option B, to be put on the full board agenda on the 24th. Depending on how that vote goes, we would only be voting on one of those, option A if we vote to sell, option B if we vote not to sell. So, but in order to do the business of the county board, we need to move both of these to the agenda for Thursday. I don't know, can we take them together, or do we need to take them one at a time?
I think you could do a motion to forward resolutions A and B to the county board for decision at that point.
Okay.
So you're not voting on them individually.
Okay, so I would like to move that we put option A and...
You can't move.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to ask for a motion, is what I meant to say. Mr. Goss, and do I have a second? Mr. Esri, any questions or discussion? Yes, Mr. Patterson.
Yes. I would like to move an amendment to Budget A and one to Budget B. For Budget A, I move that under the heading General Corporate Fund Budget Requests, that we amend the last sentence to read after the word increases, comma, and at least $50,000 in new allocations for recommendations outlined by the Racial Justice Task Force.
Okay.
Can I do these proposed amendments together? No, it's actually the one to B is different. Yeah.
That one was for A?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry. So on page 65, under General Corporate Fund Budget Requests, it would basically be in addition to the last sentence. After increases, it would said to have comma, and at least $50,000 in new allocations for recommendations outlined by the Racial Justice Task Force.
Second by Mr. Storr. Yes, that's what the
That was said
motion.
right.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Just question, so I'm clear. I think I'm supportive of this, but I just don't know where 50,000 goes. I mean, to say generically it goes towards the Racial Justice Task Force, I don't know where it would be spent. No, I know that, but that encompasses many things. And where exactly would those funds go? Would 90% go to one thing and 10% to something else, or 5 and 5? So some clarification.
I mean, speaking specifically of where the funds would go, I think that's something that the board would have to decide specifically of which of the programs you wanted to pursue, the recommendations. Yeah, to be determined by the county board. I feel like that's a pious answer.
So I'll just be upfront. I wrote that. And the reason I wrote that is every time we've had a discussion about if we sell the nursing home, the discussion is consistently that we would put more money to social justice. But if you actually look at the budget request, it says that fiscal year 2019 non-personnel expenditures will be held flat against the 2018 budget, which means that the direction that we would be giving staff as they prepare the budget, right? So this is the direction we're giving them to actually prepare the budget document, then we would then have ample opportunity to ask questions, push back against, develop, would actually prioritize that because we told the staff to prioritize that as they were preparing the budget. So they would have to work with the Racial Justice Task Force and the elected and appointed officials underneath, that are supposed to implement that in order to decide where that, but basically it's saying, we've said we're going to do this and now we're going to put our money where our mouth is. Yes, Mr. Weibel.
I'm in support of this, but I just want to point out that we obviously can change our minds later. We can make it 200,000 or make it 2,000, but at least this initially sets it up that way, and we go from there. So I do support it.
Right. And I should point out, I wasn't tied to the dollar figure. Ms. Petrie.
Well, you refer to this then being decided by the Racial Justice Task Force. It doesn't exist right now.
The recommendations already outlined, they gave us a report with recommendations that we've been hearing updates about. The report exists. So we would be, but many of the things on the report we cannot immediately implement because we have no funding.
So then could the wording of friendly suggestion to Mr. Patterson, who's making the amendment, that instead of putting in a specific amount, stating that there should be amount included in the 2019 budget based on those recommendations from the Racial Justice Task Force report?
Mr. Weibel.
I don't consider that friendly.
I'd like to stick with an actual dollar amount.
That means you have to make them and make an amendment.
Yeah.
I consider it unfriendly, so it means if you want to do it, you have to make an amendment.
Yeah. Do you want to make that as a formal amendment? We have somebody that's saying it's not friendly.
Point of order. Point of order. Robert's Rules does not recognize friendly amendments. Okay? The way I do it is I ask if somebody wants a friendly amendment, I say, is there anybody against it or for it? Anybody can be against it. If they're against it, it's not a friendly amendment. Therefore, you have to make the formal motion.
Okay, I do make that in a form of a motion to amend the amendment to state that there is an amount set in the 2019 budget to implement suggestions made in the final report of the Racial Justice Task Force.
Do we have a second to the amendment of the amendment? Mr. March, so we do have a second. So any discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Mr. Storr.
Could you repeat that, please?
I don't know, did our recorder get it down?
believe
I
you,
didn't write it down when I
that
said
you
it.
said you are requesting an amendment to state there is an amount set in the 2019 budget to implement suggestions made by the Racial Justice Task Force.
I think I said recommendations, but that's okay.
Recommendations.
Yeah. They are recommendations in the Racial Justice Task Force final report.
By the Racial Justice Task Force final report,
Yes.
with no dollar amount. Is that correct?
Okay, do we have Mr. Anderson?
Well, I'm just going to say I'm not going to be supportive of the amended amendment. I think we need a dollar certainty or much like the original amendment. I think I've heard, and I personally said I'm committed to the social justice program once we get money. And I'd like to see some money eared or placed in this amendment showing that it's earnest.
Thank you. Mr. Storr?
I agree with Mr. Anderson, and I would have recommended a higher amount, but I think, as Mr. Weibel pointed out, we can amend that as we get recommendations and the process goes forward.
Any other questions? Ms. Petrie?
Hearing the comments, I'll withdraw my amendment.
Okay, so the amendment to the amendment is withdrawn, so we're now back to the original amendment of $50,000 as read by Mr. Patterson. Ms. Busey?
And just as a clarification, I believe this is what I understood you to say, because this is direction to the elected officials and department heads that you, the county board, are saying to them, there's at least $50,000 in new allocations for recommendations made by the Racial Justice Task Force report, and you are hoping that they are going to bring recommendations to you. So you might get 3 or 4 different recommendations, and then the board will decide. That's the process as you envision it, right? I just want to make sure we're not just saying the board's going to decide about $50,000. You want recommendations from the department heads and elected officials.
Right, based on the specific recommendations of the Racial Justice Task Force, and I would say working really closely with the chairs of that committee. Any? Mr. McGuire.
Well, thank you, Ms. Furtado, Dr. Furtado. I don't have a problem with this, but it seems like we're getting into the weeds of trying to figure out what this whole thing is, rather than just voting the 2 options forward to the next meeting. I actually like it because there are things that Mr. King has said that we want to try to accomplish. So I'm not quite sure about it, I suppose. But maybe this is just it. So.
Any other comments? All right, so now we are voting on the amendment to the amendment of, no.
The amendment to the main motion.
I'm sorry, say again. Oh, I'm sorry, the amendment to the motion. Yeah, that's sorry, I didn't mean the amendment to the amendment. I got lost in my semantics. So all those in favor? Right, we had a request for a roll call. That's okay. No, that's what you completely, that was so long ago I forgot about it. But yes, we had a request
Point of
for a roll
order,
call.
there's only only one person, so go ahead with a regular vote. Sorry.
But yeah, no, Mr. Esri, he definitely seconded it. Okay, so roll call, please.
Petrie?
Yes.
Rector? Rosales?
Yes.
Storr? Summers? Tinsley?
Yes.
Weibel? Anderson? Clemens? Clifford? Coert? Cruz? Esri? Goss? Harper?
No.
Marsh?
Yes.
McGuire?
That'd be yes.
Patterson?
Yes.
Furtado?
Yes. And it passes. Sorry, I wasn't doing the little check mark thing. Thank you, 15-4. Thank you. Okay, so now we are back to the general conversation about options A and B, the original item on the agenda. Discussion. Oh, yeah, that's right, B.
And this is
Mr.
the
Patterson.
amended item.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a second amendment to Budget B. I move that we cut numbers 3 and 4 from under the heading General Corporate Fund Requests and replace that text with number 3, cuts to the budget equaling the payment of debt obligation for outstanding nursing home accounts payable and the operating subsidy from the general fund to the nursing home to be determined through the budgeting process.
I have a second by Mr. Storr. Discussion. Mr. Anderson.
I heard you read it. Can you explain what you're trying to accomplish?
I think Ms. Furtado might speak to it more eloquently.
Okay, so I also wrote this one, full disclosure, and you know, feel free to push back against me about what I'm trying to accomplish. I completely agree with my colleague, Mr. Goss, that if we do not sell the nursing home, right, so option B is if we do not sell the nursing home, and if we do go the route of restructuring the debt, that we need to pay for that restructuring of that debt, and any operational costs that are not available through the funds that we have for the nursing home need to be done through cuts. Right, so I'm in complete agreement with that. I am not in agreement with the specific cuts that are put forward, and the one that concerns me, frankly, the most is the Youth Assessment Center, because I think, as we heard here, if our goal is to be financially responsible, it is not readily clear to me that cutting the Youth Assessment Center is ultimately going to save us any money, because we then might just have to have more attorneys, which might end up being more expensive. So I am by no means am I trying to say that the budgeting process, if we do this, should not cover those costs. I'm concerned about the specificity as they're laid out in this amendment.
You want it specific?
Right. Mr. McGuire.
Yes, obviously we'll be against this. I've been working with these programs, reentry, youth assessment center, for a long period of time. It's going to kill me to have to try to cut these programs. I've supported them. But if the nursing home isn't sold, we're going to have to make these cuts either way. I've listened to this board for the last 9 months or 2 years talk about how they're going to make cuts. We went through the budget process last year, and nothing happened. No cuts were presented, and the cuts that were presented, they were ignored, and nothing happened. The vendors are going to expect to be paid. If they're not going to be paid, the same thing that happened in the earlier budget process where we had to pay $101,000 is going to happen again. A vendor is going to show up at this door and sue us. We'll pay you later. We're going to make cuts, but later. We'll come up with the cuts some other time. That is not going to happen, and that is not going to save the nursing home. We have a plan here. This is something they've suggested. We need to move forward and do it. I don't want to cut the Youth Assessment Center. It's likely not to come back if we cut it. Once they disband the people in the building and everything else, it's done. You have to make a decision. But the nursing home will be done. There'll be cuts to staff. There were discussions today about the staff. The 4-star is based on staff. But there'll be an 8.5% cut to that staff.
Mr. Starr.
Face it.
I agree with you, Jim. That cuts to the Youth Assessment Center just leave me cold. And as I understand it, that even with these cuts, that there would be a skeleton of the Youth Assessment Center left. Putting that aside, what Ms. Furtado is trying to do, and I agree with her, is that we do something more along the line of zero-based budgeting, where instead of kind of picking out specific targets, that we look at everything and choose things that places direct our cuts in ways to other than the Youth Assessment Center and the reentry program. Do I understand that? Was that pretty much your intent and mine? Thank you.
And to be frank, also my intent was to start a conversation. Mr. Anderson.
Just briefly, I appreciate what Chris is saying, but we can't go to zero-based budgeting when our departments have already been depleted to their zeros. Those are mandated functions. So you can't go over and tell Gordy you can't process the work that you're required to by law. You can't tell the coroner, well, you just can't do those autopsies, skip those, or just hold on to them a while longer. These things have to be done. It's what's left to be cut are the things that are discretionary, non-mandated. And these two items are non-mandated. They would be the obvious lops to start with. And then you still can't pay for everything. You still got to cut. And then now you actually have to go and cut down to the bone on these departments where they don't have fat. So there's no fat to remove, so you're just cutting on the bone. But it wouldn't make sense to me to stop doing mandated functions while I'm still operating discretionary functions. Those would be the first to go, and I suspect that's why these are on here, because much like the nursing home, it's not a mandated function of this county, nor are these activities. Thank you.
Mr. Goss.
Yeah, the big reason, the only reason these are cut, it's because they don't have a funding source. And they're the only things out of this budget that we can cut that we have any kind of control over. This is another, I mean, you take these out of there, this is another 6 or 7 or 8 employees that you're going to cut. This is what you're down to. So we say we want to take care of our county employees, and yet we've got 2 non-mandated programs here that it hurts everybody to cut. There would be no disagreement whatsoever from me that it's not going to cost us likely in the end. But these are the things, these are the only things that we can cut. Zero-based budgeting, great idea. Problem is, this is the zero that we can cut. The rest of the stuff is mandated by law or has a direct funding source. So therefore, our ability to cut, this is what we can cut.
I saw Mr. Isri first and then Mr. Weibel. Mr. Rector. I was waiting for that, Mr. Rector. Mr. Weibel.
I think this is really semantics. We could leave it the way it is, and then we could say that we want, and let's say we don't sell a nursing home. We could say then people want to cut it. We can say, no, we want to restore it. We can do anything we want. So, you know, that's where it counts. It doesn't matter today. It really counts in October, November, when we make the final decision. And then we can restore things or take them out or do whatever we want.
And I do appreciate that. And I'm sorry, Ms. Cowart.
For some reason, I was under the impression that youth assessment and the reentry program was part of our agreement for the quarter sale taxes. So am I wrong there?
In 1998, when the county board campaigned for the quarter-cent sales tax, public safety sales tax, in the campaign, it was stated that the county would use 5% of the proceeds for delinquency prevention. That was a decision made by the county board that sat in 1998. That is not a binding decision on future county boards. So we have a state's attorney's opinion that clearly states that is not statutorily or in any way mandated, this county board can determine to spend those monies differently. In fact, in 2003, the county board at that time made a change to what was campaigned in 1998 by saying that the sales tax would not be sunsetted when the building bonds were paid off in 2029, that the sales tax would continue to be used to support facilities in county government. So you're absolutely right. That was stated. It was part of the campaign for the sales tax, but it was not what the voters actually voted for, and you are not bound by it today.
Thank you for that clarification. And again, I just want to make sure that, I just want to state this again. My intention in this is mostly to facilitate a conversation about, and specifically to facilitate a conversation and a recognition that just because a particular item in the budget is not mandated, it might have an impact on mandated items in the budget that far outweigh, right, and end up costing us more down the line. And so these things work together, and I think that's an important conversation to have, right? So we heard some of the conversation about how this can impact the mandated functions, and I just wanted to make sure that we were having that conversation. And that as we're giving direction to staff and elected officials, that we're at least expressing our sort of thoughts about this just from the very beginning in May, right? Mr. McGuire.
Yeah, but don't we have to cut $2.5 million the first year, $2.5 million the second year?
2.63 according to the projections.
Right, and 40 staff. We heard a lot of discussion this morning in the courts how people will be subjected to some real major issues. So there's got to be some balance when we're looking at this. Thank you.
Any other, thank you for that. Roll call.
Petrie?
No.
Rector? No. Rosales? Yes. Storr? Yes. Summers? Yes. Tinsley?
Yes.
Weibel? Anderson? No. Clemens? No. Clifford? No. Cowart? Cruz? Esri? No. Goss? No. Harper?
No.
Marsh?
No.
McGuire? No. Patterson?
Yes.
Furtado?
Yep, so I have 12 to 9, is that correct? No, 10 to 8, I'm sorry. I think I counted one wrong, so I'm sorry, 11 to 8. So that one failed. So now we are all the way back to the original conversation about the items. So A as amended and B is not amended. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. So thank you very much for that conversation. And other business? Chair's report. I don't have any report other than this to say. Thank you for bearing with me as I'm in my first few months as the finance chair, and specifically as we go into the budgeting process. I would very, very much like to have conversations with each and every one of you. I will come to your district. I will sit down and talk to you. I will throw darts with you if that's what it takes, but I would very, very much like to have a conversation with each of you as we go through the budgeting process. A lot of you have been doing this a lot longer than me, and I'd like to hear your thoughts. Designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda. Yes, Ms. Petrie.
The vote was unanimous, so by rule it'd be on the consent agenda, but it's not going to be?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No, because the amendments, okay. All right, so I have on the consent agenda A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, B3 and C2, and E2. Correct? Oh, D3, you know, you're right, I skipped that, I apologize, D3 and E2. And I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Furtado. A couple other items. Seek approval of the April 10, 2018 closed session minutes. Moved by Mr. Esri, second by Mr. Goss. Discussion, seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have one item. That's demonstration of parcel sliver detector GIS online application. Okay, back in 2017, December 19th to December 20th, WCI News reported that a company known as Nasty Joe's had purchased through a tax sale, $600, a narrow strip of land that an Urbana property owner had previously thought it owned her, that she had owned it. It turns out the property that she thought she owned consisted of a larger parcel with an adjacent thin parcel at the very back of it. Since she was not aware that her property consisted of two parcels and she was paying taxes, she thought she was just paying tax. She ended up, she was actually paying taxes only on the larger parcel, not on the smaller parcel, because she was unaware that she's supposed to be paying taxes on two parcels. As a consequence, that parcel went up for a tax sale because nobody's paying taxes on it. Nasty Joe bought it, and he offered it back to her for $3,000. I'm not sure what the result of that was, but on December 9th, she came to a county board meeting, I think it was a cow meeting, and asked, you probably remember it, she came before the board in public participation and asked, what could the county do about it? Now, I think she was probably asking, what can they do in her particular case? Well, we cannot, county board cannot do anything in that particular case, but I was thinking, what could we do to prevent this from happening again? So I was thinking about, now I actually have a background in GIS. We're working with the same software that the GIS uses here. Thought about how could we go about doing this? So I came up with the idea and talked to Leanne in the GIS department, and she did the programming. I didn't do the programming because my program is about 10 years old and it's not up to snuff. But basically, I told her what to do, and we did that. So we came up with this what we call a parcel slice detector app. And what it does is that it allows a landlord to see if they're vulnerable to this same situation. And so, what we did was we selected all the properties, all the parcels in Champaign County that are less than 2,000 square feet. Initially, we did 1,000 square feet, but we found some strips of land bigger than that, so we upped it up to 1,000 square feet. And what we did is just highlighted all those properties. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit into Thomasboro for no particular reason other than it's in the center of the map. And you'll notice you'll see some properties that are highlighted in red. This is an actual boundary here. I think that's something else. Like right here. So these are parcels that are less than 2,000 square foot. Now in this case, this happens to be just a small parcel. It's not a narrow strip. This one here is triangular. It's probably owned by the same person that owns this. Again, that person is probably aware of it because it's a pretty large size. Here's an interesting one that's in the center of, looks like the center of a block. Anyway, just want to show you how it's highlighted. So what you can do, you go over here to type in your address. I'm going to type in an address of a property that I own. Right there it is. And we're going to zoom in here. I actually got too far in here. Oops. Okay, this is the property right here. Hold on here. That works better on my, oh, I know, let's go west, John. It worked better on my computer. Okay, all right, here we go. See, it did move it. All right. That's the property right there. It's the house I own. As you can see, it's not highlighted. It's one parcel, not a problem. So let's put in that parcel from Rantoul. Maybe. I don't know where he lives. Now, one thing I don't know is this strip might be bigger than 2,000 square feet. Yeah, there it is, right there. So pick it up right there, and we can then pick it up there. Oh, we gotta go bigger, I think. So it's this narrow property right there. Right there it is. All right, so let's look at the landowner who's got the problem with Nasty Joe. This is an Eastern, I think it's called Eastern Drive. It's now owned by Brian Matruse here. Let's zoom to it here. All right. It's thinking, I think. Doesn't like that. Hold on. Let me zoom back out. Why it's not taking that? It doesn't like it. We have a glitch here, folks. I think I can do a man. Oh, okay, hold on. Is that it? Okay, there it is. Yeah. Right, so this is her property here. And it's this narrow strip of land right there that she didn't realize she wasn't paying taxes to. So anyway, obviously, the owners have to go in there and do this themselves. But it's pretty easy to do. I'm going to show one more example here. Oops, too far here. Well, funny you should ask that. Okay, well, that's right there. So let's filter all these here. Just gotta think here a minute.
So while you're working on this, you've made it so easy for Nasty Joe to just come in and find all these properties.
Actually, that's not true, because it doesn't. You cannot tell if there have been taxes paid or not. There's no. You have no ability to look for the taxes paid or not.
Well, you can with a little more research.
You could do that all you want too. You could just go to parcel map, do the same thing, look for all the slices. If you want to do that, it doesn't matter. You look at the maps or look at this. There's no difference. You still have to do a lot of work. Exactly right. Okay, I do want to point this one out right here. Can I filter that?
I paid $8 on taxes on that last year.
There it is, right there. It's a big one.
That's for a post sign.
I want to point out you could easily, now what do you do? There's a form you can access here. You could combine it easily with this one right here. Just fill out a form, costs no money. So if you want to get rid of that.
What's that?
You can combine this one with this parcel here by filling out a form.
So the rest of that's someone else's property. That's for a post sign for the shopping
No,
center.
I understand.
So I don't want it to be owned by the people who owns the property around it.
No, you could, but if you, oh, you don't own this one right here?
No, that's the hen house.
Okay, all right, but you can combine it with this one right here.
You want to go to breakfast sometime?
No, it's all right. Anyway, so that's there for use. You can use all you want. Check to see if you have a slice on your property or not. And seeing no other business, we're adjourned.